Welcome to the LDS PMA podcast. I am your guest host, Alan Sanderson, filling in for Ted Finch. Today we'll be visiting with Sherry Meidell. Sherry Meidell is an artist and illustrator. She loves to paint in watercolor and has illustrated several children's books. You can find her work at sherrymeidell.com. Welcome to the program, Sherry.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Sherry, you work in the challenging medium of watercolor, and you've written about this a lot on your blog. Can you tell us some of the life lessons you've learned from painting in watercolor?
So, probably the life lessons I've learned has been more about just the art in general. I've been able to connect with some people. When I went on a humanitarian trip to Africa, we were on the bus and they were stopping at a pharmacy to get some medical supplies. And they told everybody, stay on the bus because everywhere you went, people were trying to sell you things. And they knew that it would delay the bus if we got off. So I was looking out the window and kind of sketching in my sketchbook. And there was a man out there who was kind of goofing off and saying, sketch me, sketch me. And so I turned to him and started sketching him, and he immediately got serious and straightened up and kind of posed for me. And so I spent some time sketching him, and then I showed him the sketch through the window and could connect with him in a way that I probably couldn't connect in any other way. Also had the chance to paint on the back of some schoolrooms that were in Africa. So if you have children and they see a blank wall and they have a marker, they immediately want to just, put their mark on that wall. Well, these were big cement walls with nothing on them. And they asked if I would paint some things on the walls. So I wanted to be able to have part of them on the walls also, and not just me. So I put the handprints of the students and the colors of the Kenyan flag. And then the kids would come in and during their lunch, and they would sit there and eat and sit on the back of their desks, which was a slab of wood for the seat and a slab of wood to write on. And they would ask me questions. And so that was a way that I got to connect with them that I wouldn't have been able to any other way. One other experience in Logan, I was asked to do a school visit, and I was supposed to help the fourth graders talk about and learn about Native Americans in Utah. And so we had them do portraits of Shoshones and Paiutes and some other artwork, let them listen to a picture book that was in the Navajo language. There was one young boy that came up to me, showed me his artwork, and just started talking to me and asking questions about the artwork. And we just talked for quite a while. And then the teacher came up and said, "What did you do?" And I was like, "With what?" And she said, "That boy has never talked at all in my class for this whole year, and he was talking to you." So art is a way of communicating that you can't communicate in any other way. So that's kind of what the sketching, the watercolor has brought into my life, is a way to connect with others.
Yeah, those are interesting stories. You often imagine the artist as being sort of solitary with an easel somewhere, right? But what you describe is a very social experience with art.
Well, I think artists want to stay hidden in their studios. That's their inclination. They don't want to step out there, and they would rather just maybe hide away and paint. But there's also another side of art, which is getting out there and just sharing what you've created with others and kind of connecting with others. So here I'm kind of a quiet, solitary person, and the art has taken me out and help me to meet the world and meet people in the world.
Yeah. Helps you get out of yourself.
Yes.
Well, so you're primarily a visual artist, but you also write a blog about your art. You've been doing this for 10 plus years.
You talked about being solitary and in your studio. So blogging is a way to kind of get your artwork out there to your audience so you can kind of meet others in that way. It's kind of scary at first to put your stuff out there or to write and hope that you don't say anything stupid. But it's another way to connect with others.
Has your blog opened up opportunities for you that you wouldn't have had otherwise?
I think so. You're never sure who's really reading the blog. But I got a phone call from a man that's doing a book. Vern Swanson's doing a book on religious art in Utah. And I think he saw my painting of Jesus Christ on the road to Emmaus. Mm-hmm. And so he called up to get some information from me and also to ask if he could put that picture in a book that he's creating. So I think there's ways that it's connected me with others that, I never really counted on and didn't think that it would happen. So
you recently wrote a really touching story about a card that your granddaughter sent to you and your husband. Can you tell us that story?
Yes. So about maybe 4 years ago, my husband was very sick, and we ended up taking him into the hospital, and he had an infection that went septic. And they were going to do a little exploratory surgery on his leg and ended up having to amputate his leg in an emergency situations to save his life. So he was in the hospital for a long time, maybe about 2 months. And I just recently came across that I'd taken a little photo of the card that my granddaughter had sent to us during that time. And if I can find it, I'll read exactly what she said. Here it is. Dear Grandpa, I hope that you will get better. And here is some money to help pay for the prosthetic leg. I know it's not much, but it's all I had. I love you and Grandma. So, and there's like $3 bills in the card. And so, but I like to tie that into giving all that you have in your artwork and in everything you do in life, the creative process. You just give it all that you have.
That's a really sweet story.
It really is. It touched me again as I found the photo of the card and thought about it again and the whole experience that we went through.
Let's talk some about your paintings. So sometimes you paint religious themes like scripture stories, like the Road to Emmaus painting that you mentioned. But it seems, just looking over your portfolio, more of your work is secular in topic, like the flowers and the landscapes and the portraits that you do. Is there a difference in your approach to creating a religious work compared to a secular work? And how is that process different for you?
So this might be a long answer, but Becky Hartvickson and I were asked to go to Nauvoo to do an art show. And we decided to go early and do some research, took some pictures, and then came back and painted the whole winter so we could have some paintings for the show. And then we went back to Nauvoo and we did the show. And on lunch breaks and in the afternoon or the morning, depending on when we were supposed to be at the gallery, we would go down to the historical homes that were in Nauvoo. And me and my husband were down at the John Taylor home, kind of waiting in line to go inside. So I usually carry a sketchbook around. And so if I get a spare moment, I'm just sketching. It helps my memory, helps my muscle memory, and it gives me ideas for future paintings. There was a young sister missionary that was standing at the door and started asking me all these questions about art and how I did it and the process and what was involved. And And then the next day we went to the 70s hall, and she was there with a couple of senior sister missionaries. And the same thing, we got talking about watercolors and the picture books I'd done and the watercolors I'd painted. I showed them the art that we created for the gallery. And anyway, so those paintings were kind of a religious nature. Then, like 9 months later, my husband and I were called to be missionaries at BYU, Hawaii. He's been a seminary and institute teacher his whole life. And so he was going to be teaching religion. And I was going to teach some art classes for an art teacher who was going on sabbatical, and then help students who were trying to learn English. I was going to try to help them with their English and help them speak with a Utah accent. So I knew that my husband was going to be teaching religion. That's what you should do on a mission. But did the Lord want me as a missionary to be teaching art? Would I be doing something to bless people's lives with my art? So the first day on the campus, I went over to see if we could meet like a secretary that I had been emailing. And I went in the McKay building, and there was a young student there. And I asked her, do you know where this office is? So I want to meet with this secretary. And the student looked at me and she said, are you an artist? And I went, how can you tell that? Is it written? I don't know. It's not on my name badge. And so I said, yes, I am. And then she said, are you a watercolor artist? And then I was pretty flabbergasted and said, yes, I am. And she was that young sister missionary that had been in Nauvoo. And this was just a way that the Lord had of letting me know that, yeah, he knew where I was, and he had need of a crazy artist to go on this mission and do artwork. So I think the Lord wants us to use these talents that we have. So he's blessed me with the talent to create art. And so whether I'm painting a picture of an old man in London, or flowers, or students performing at the Polynesian Cultural Center, it's using that artwork and sharing with people and maybe helping them to see what I can see, in the world, kind of the beauty that's around us and the things that the Lord's created for us to enjoy. So I whether it's secular or religious, I kind of think of it all in the same way.
Yeah. You mentioned your sketchbook there. That's a theme that you talk about a lot on your blog over the years. Mm-hmm. Lots of about, how you use your sketchbook and how you pull things back out of it. So our listeners some of them are visual artists, but many of them are writers or filmmakers or other types of creators. What are the benefits of keeping a record of your ideas and inspirations?
Oh my goodness, there's just ideas that are flitting out there. And if you don't grab them and catch them and put them down, they get lost. So when I get an idea, I want to write it down somewhere. I want to sketch it. I love to put pictures with words because that will take me right back to where I was. And sketching, writing down snippets of conversation. That's a fun way to take you back where you were. And I don't care whether you're writing or doing illustrations or making films. It's all the same thing. You want to capture those ideas and keep them and save them and put them somewhere. And then if there's ever a time when you're stuck, you can go back and kind of look through those things. And there's a million ideas in probably not a million sketchbooks, but I have a ton of them now. So,
Do you have sketchbooks going back 30, 40 years?
That's a math question. You said you wouldn't ask any math questions. I have no idea how long they go back for, but they've gone back far enough that I can see there's a real change in my artwork. And I can see the progression of what I've learned just from sketching from life. It got to the point where I could see someone walk by and I could still, even though they were gone, I could put down on the paper an image of that person and capture it pretty good. So you just become, it's a way of improving your artwork, improving your mind, your memory. It's just a smart thing to do no matter what you're creating.
Can we talk about your illustrations for the Friend?
Uh-huh.
So you've done several illustrations over the years for the Friend. Is it different to work for the church compared to other organizations or other people?
So I went into the Friend magazine with my first idea for a cover. And it was on a piece of tracing paper, and it was an idea of Noah's Ark. And Dick Brown was the art director, and he said, I think this is a little too whimsical. If you can take out some of the whimsy and then bring it back, and we'll see if we can use it. And so I went home and kind of took out some of the whimsy and still kept some of the funness. And then they went ahead and hired me to do that cover. So, and that was so exciting. I came home and bought the boys some rollerblades because we have 5 boys. And so there went the money for that illustration. But I've also worked with some really nice, doing the children's book illustrations. People that create children's books are just nice people, at least the ones I've worked with. They're good and kind. So it's just been kind of delightful to work with them. Got to know one of the writers of some of the picture books I've done, Faye Gibbons back in Alabama. She called me up with just a delightful Southern accent, and we've been sending cards to each other ever since, and we're finally able to meet in person. She came out to Utah. So I've had good experiences working with people, whether it's been in the church or outside of the church. It's been a good experience.
Any other words of wisdom for our listeners that you'd like to share?
So creating art is kind of a spiritual thing. It's like the ideas come from outside of you, and you're able to capture them and then put them down on paper. So whenever I'm doing a new project or creating a new painting, I always start out with a prayer to just help me stay focused and help me have the Lord's help as I'm creating whatever I'm creating. I feel like He's a real part of the creative process. So maybe that's my last words.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan.
At this point, I introduced Sherry to my wife, Marisa, who is an aspiring artist. Their conversation, which I caught on a live microphone, was even better than my interview.
Before you go, I wanted to just introduce you to my wife, who's sitting next to me.
Oh, good.
Hey, Sherry.
Hey, what's your name?
My name's Marisa.
Marisa, how are you? So you're an illustrator or an artist?
Yeah, I like to do art.
Oh, it's so hard to say I'm an artist. Way to go. Way to go.
It's been a couple of years since I started thinking I'm going to take some art classes and I'm going to set up a studio, my own art studio.
Great. That's perfect. So what do you want to do?
I have so many things that come to me all the time. just being creative makes you feel more creative. Just
it does. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's what I would have asked you. I'd be like, how does your brain change once you start being creative? Because I see stuff in my head when I'm falling asleep. I have to open my eyes and draw it quick.
So my granddaughter, last night, a big rainstorm blew through and a microburst, and she was driving down the street, and her mom was driving, and then she ran in the house and said, "Hey, you won't believe what I saw." And she went immediately to get it down on paper. She saw a man with an umbrella that was walking against the wind, and the wind had blown the umbrella inside out, and a strike of lightning back behind him. And she had to get it on paper,
Awesome.
So I've tried to create some picture books too. So do the writing and the illustrating. And at first I thought I would run out of ideas, but
now they keep coming.
They just keep coming.
Open your mind a little bit, and then it's like it's all been waiting to just come to you. Your mind.
It's weird how you just get those ideas, but then you don't do all of them. There's one that grabs you, and then you sit down and complete that, and just work and finish it. That's what I've been doing.
Figured out how to get to a finished stage on anything, but I'm trying to get closer and closer every time.
Okay, so I tell my art students, you got to finish it, because they'll get to a point where they'll go, "Oh, this is not working for me. I'm just going to chuck this painting." And I say, just finish it, because there's things that you learn, and maybe you'll go past that awkward stage and it will end up looking like something nice, So start finishing those projects.
I was in church and we were drawing. I'm always painting people from behind.
You're not supposed to sketch in church. Who
made up that rule? I was sitting next to my mom.
Nobody made that rule up. I'm just joking.
There's some rule about photos, but no rules about drawing.
I know. And so I sketch in church also.
And I got to that ugly stage I was just painting. I was amazed when I went past the drawing with pencil to the drawing with color and painting it. Now it's just so exciting. Like, who has time to draw the sketch? I've just got to start painting. It's so much fun. And I messed up this lady who had sort of red hair. And so I used my thumb and tried to erase. You can't erase watercolor. When I thought, I am done with this. I messed it up now. But I just said, okay, fine. I'll just finish it. I'll try and keep going. I managed to pull something out of that drawing that looked okay by the
good
painting.
You can erase watercolor. You can lift off.
Well, I can do that if the paint hasn't sunk into the paper already. Some of the paper is too absorbent that I'm using.
Or a staining paint.
Right. Do a little white brush on the top. I make goals to do something, and then I sit down and get excited and keep going. So it's just the getting over the hump of the fear of what am I going to do? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Just sit down and do anything at all. And that gets you going. And the ideas keep coming to you and you keep getting more and more excited about it.
That's great. One thing I loved was having my time flexible. So I could go and watch a son's wrestling meet or baseball game and still get the artwork done because I could do it on my own time. So I just loved that.
Yeah, I find that I'm sitting waiting for kids to get out of school and I'm drawing something. My problem is I can see things so clearly in my mind, and it just seems to come to me already created, like it's already been created, and I'm getting a glimpse of it, and then I don't have the capability to make it real. So I struggle through all the physical creation. The spiritual creation's been done. And how do you work with that?
There's almost never that a piece of artwork is where you want it to be when you finish it, because you've seen this like it could be, but it gets closer and closer. The more paintings that you do, the closer you get to that vision that you have.
Keep developing your physical skills by practice, and then hopefully you get close to idealized thing that you can see.
So you should go to some workshops. If there's an artist that you really like, you could join the Utah Watercolor Society, and we're going to try to Zoom the meetings. Just start educating yourself along with the doing of it.
Right. I have a lot of art classes online that I've subscribed to. And so now I just have to use them. It's real easy to buy the art supplies. It's another thing to actually end up using them all. My mom's given me so many art supplies. She's an art teacher. And I have a lifetime goal to use them all up eventually.
So I have a sister-in-law that would take my watercolor class, and she would just buy supplies. And then she would have these little places in this little corner, which was her studio, where she could hang them all, and she never would paint. She'd just buy supplies and organize them. So, yeah, it's a combination of buying the stuff and using it.
That's right. I walked into a paint shop one time to get paint for the house. We were living in Ohio. It was this little old house, and I was always repainting the walls. Kids were always messing them up, and I was always changing my mind what color I wanted. And I bought the on sale oops paint all the time, so nothing ever matched. And I'd mix and match my own colors. Desk said something wise to me once. He said, "It's real easy to buy the paint. Now you have to do the work." I'm putting it on the wall. I pondered that over the years. Like, that is so true. It's real easy to buy this, and then finding the time to do the art classes and really learn from them takes a lot of the real work. That's where it hits the road. So now that my kid's in school, I promised the Lord I will use this time to learn.
It's nice. And if you have that goal and you have a schedule where you just go into that studio and start, then you don't want to stop. It's the starting, that's sometimes hard. So, yeah, just do it. That sounds good to me.
It sounds good to me too. I started a little blog. I've got like 7 whole posts on it about how I started with 10 minutes. I set a timer on my watch. And I said to myself, you are going to do 10 minutes of art. And I'd get up before school. I have to do my duties as a mom, get the kids off to school. And I just make myself do 10 minutes in the art studio. And then I would post it. I'm like, okay, this is the real deal. I'm going to be real now, not just pretending, drawing in the back of the church in the dark where no one can see me. Is I think there are like several stages to becoming a good artist or just developing any craft. Is you're the student, and then you have to share it with someone else and show it, and then you need to teach it to somebody else. And so there are several stages, and as you do each of those stages, they all feed back into your learning.
They really do. It's amazing what teaching has done for me. I'll be painting a painting and I'll hear my own words come back to me,
I've done that.
Don't lose the whites or, and I hear my own voice in my head.
I do that sometimes when I'm praying out loud and I hear what I'm saying and I think, wait, did I just say that? That's what I need to know. And it's like a revelation of yourself, and teaching someone else is like that. I hear my kids ask me a question and then I answer it and think, where did that answer come from? I just learned from what I was saying. And as you're teaching art or anything, it is such a building experience for yourself.
It really is. So you get to help others, and it comes back and ends up helping yourself too. So it's great.
I think creativity is so beneficial to every person, no matter what kind of creativity that they like or know how to do. It benefits you spiritually. I have found myself becoming so much more confident. I can make decisions better. I recently needed to re-roof our home because it got hit by hail. And they were asking me, what color of of the roof do you want it to be? The shingles? And I looked at the red ones and I'm like, oh, I just love the red. And it's so bold. And it's like, wow, do I really dare to re-roof my house in this Monaco brick red color? And yeah, I think I do dare.
You did.
I wouldn't have dared before starting to do more art stuff. It just makes me so happy.
Watch out, Alan.
Yeah.
Here it comes. I'm going to have to repaint the whole house soon.
Yep, it's going to happen.
Alan says every once in a while, you have turned a corner. You have got I'm able to draw realistic things. Like I can see it and I can draw it. And I learned that skill in art school. And now it's like your imagination, that's a totally different part of your brain. And it's kind of hard to put both of those together. It's like trying to play piano with two hands and trying to get your brain. Eventually it clicks and you're like, how is my brain capable of doing these two things at the same time?
So, when I have used my sketchbook and have sketched so much real life that when I try to sketch something from my imagination, it's almost like I'm seeing it. And it's almost like I'm just sketching it in my sketchbook and seeing it. So there's some muscle memory that happens. And the good thing about art is you're always creating, and you're always learning as you create. So I don't think there's any arrival point. So even with me painting, as long as I painted, there's things that I'm learning all the time. So I think that's what makes it so fascinating,
Right. You don't really want to arrive. If you did, you'd be bored and you'd go looking for a new adventure.
Yeah, you would, for sure. So that's exciting, very exciting.
It is exciting. It makes me happy. People will say, how you doing? I'll say, fantastic. Like, really? What are you doing that's so fantastic? Well, let me tell you. I'm
scribbling on a piece of paper.
with crayons, like a little kid. And I just love it.
That's nice. That's very nice. I'm excited.
And then I want to share it with people, start another group and get people to come together. And then I think, oh man, do I really want to put in that much effort and commit that much time? But I think I do. I just want to share something that makes life better for everybody.
I've been in some critique groups for picture books and stuff, and it's just been good to meet with those other people and get their ideas. So the same thing with creating an art group. It'll just be a good way to share.
That's what I think and feel. Thanks for your encouragement.
You're welcome. Glad to do it.
It's good to talk to you today.
Good to talk to you guys.
This marks the end of Season 1. We want to thank you for listening. We are already working on Season 2, which will begin in January 2022. If you'd like to sign up for our mailing list and receive notifications when the new season begins, please visit ldspma.org/podcast.